Good morning, everyone. It's Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com, and today I'm going to show you the alternate version of the cards that we made on Facebook. These are actually gift card holders. So this was the Christmas version we made live, and the gift card fits right inside of there. We also made a version that you could use for a baby shower. So the gift card goes right in this one. And then today, I promised that we would do more of a masculine version. So we're going to use the Sea of Textures. And I believe we're going to use these three colors: Tranquil Tide, Soft Sea Foam, and Crumb Cake. We might add in a little bit of Memento as well, but we'll see as we go along. So I did pre-cut some of this so you wouldn't have to go through it again. But this is a base, and it is 5.5 by 8.5, and we're going to score it at 4.25. I already scored it, and just make sure my line is straight here because I think it might just be a teeny bit off. So I'm going to give that a press. And then we have 2 pieces of DSP that we're going to use to cover up the gift card holder portion. So this is from the, I believe it's called the Tranquil Textures. I could be wrong, but I'll post the link for sure. So we're going to use this for one. You could use either side. And then we're going to use this other piece to cover up the other side. Again, you could use either side, but I thought we would go with the little bit softer of a version today. So I don't know if we're going to use that on the outside, or I think we might use this one on the outside and then use this piece to cover up the inside. And then we have our piece for our gift card holder. This measures 10 by 2 3/4. I also have a piece for the inside panel. This is another piece, Whisper White, 4 by 5 1/4. And I have some scrap pieces because I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with the front thus far. So for our piece that is 10 by 2 3/4, we're going to begin by scoring this. And let me just move my gift cards out of the way so I can show you. This is the Simply Scored scoring tool. I use this so much. This is probably one of my most used tools in addition to the trimmer. And what we're going to do is we're going to score at 2.5, 5, and 7.5. Okay, so just like that. So we're going to fold it in, and then we're going to fold these two back up. Okay, so that's all we need that for. You can certainly use your Stampin' trimmer if you like, but I use mine very often, so I just kind of keep it handy. So I'm going to just reinforce these with my bone folder. Just press down on these really well so they're nice and crisp. Okay, now what you can do, the other day I actually used a punch, and I punched this out. You can use your framelits or your thinlits. You could cut out a circle, you could cut out a square, you could cut out an oval. Just kind of depends what you want to do. We are going to do this in 1 minute, but for right now, what I'm going to do, just to give this some time for it to dry, in the meantime, I'm going to put a little bit of glue. So I'm going to run a thin bead. So this is going to be on the center part. This is the part that's going to hold your gift card, and these two flaps are going to get closed down. So I'm going to just put a little bit of glue. This is the Tombow liquid glue, which I would highly advise using because it makes it a little bit more flexible. So I'm going to press that down, and I'm going to just put this punch to hold that just for a moment. So that's going to help it get sealed. And then in the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to stamp and decide what we're going to do. I'm going to put those over there. Again, if you missed any of the video, you can absolutely go back and catch it. It does have a lot of other tips and just some tricks that we did along with it. So I'm going to use the net, and I think we'll do the net with Crumb Cake. And this is just kind of decorating the inside, so you could do this however you'd like. So I'm going to do the net with some Crumb Cake ink, just stamping this in a couple places. I'm going to stamp it without re-inking as well. I'm also doing this on my Tonic Easy Clean mat, so I don't have to worry about after the fact. I can just wipe this off. It'll be perfectly fine. Alright, so that's going to be good. And I have my Simply Chamois here still a little damp, so I'll clean that off so I can put that right back. Then I'm going to grab the long seaweed. I'm going to do that in Tranquil Tide. And that way this will give you plenty of room to be able to write your greeting in the center. Do the same thing over here. I'll just do it kind of in the reverse. So I'm stamping that 3 times before I've re-inked. Just put a couple of them at the bottom here. Add one more dark. So those are our seaweed. Same thing again. This looks really, really bad, but it still cleans everything off. Mine isn't quite as wet as it should be because I'm still using it from yesterday, but that's okay. And you can also, too, if you want, you could spritz this with a little bit of the Stampin' Mist and then wipe it off. So either way, whatever you want to do. So we have that. And what else? I have my crumb cake here. Let me see what else we can add in. We could add in a few of these corals with the soft sea foam. So we'll just bring a couple of those in just to kind of see what they look like. Now this color is pretty light. So I would say if you're going to stamp this more than once, it's definitely, it almost gets lost in the picture. But you can do whatever you'd like for your card. All right, so that's enough for that. So this will give you plenty of room to put your greeting in. You could also just put a few of these at the top, just so there's something there in the center. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and close this up. So this is going to be our inside layer where we can put our sentiment. So you can put happy birthday. You can kind of do whatever you like. I'm going to leave it blank for now, just so it kind of gives you the possibility of what you want to put in there, because I'm not sure if we're going to use this as a birthday card or a thinking of you card. You could use it really for anything. Again, it is very neutral. It's also kind of masculine if that's something that you struggle with. So nice card there. And then what I'm going to do is, so we have this other piece that we can use for the front. So we could cut this out with an oval. We could just layer it. What I did yesterday was I ended up cutting it to 3 by 4. And I'm going to show you that real quick. Move this over. So I just cut this to 3 by 4 on the one that I did yesterday. And then I layered it with another piece of paper. This is already 4, so it just really needed a smidge off. So we can do the same thing with this one. And what we'll do is we'll kind of stick with the same thing. I'm going to add in some of these coral. Kind of do these in the same. Stamp them off a few times if you wanted to make something just a little bit lighter. Just like that. And then instead of adding in the seaweed, what we can do is we could add in this little, it's kind of like a backgroundish kind of stamp. We'll do this in Tranquil Tide, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp it off once first, just so it'll be a little bit lighter. So you can just take your stamp, go ahead and ink that up how you want it. And then what I'm going to do, I just have a little piece of scrap here. I'm just going to stamp this off and then stamp it kind of at the bottom, going all the way up without re-inking. Kind of gives you that ombre look. And again, we did kind of stamp these off. Oops, well that was in the wrong color. That's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to go ahead and clean this off. We stamped these in the soft sea foam, so they are going to get a little bit lost in there. So my intention was to re-ink them and stamp them, but I went with the wrong ink. So I just wiped that off. We'll see if we can bring a few of these in and make them stand out again. There we go. A little bit darker. I'll add one more to the side here. There we go. That's good enough. And then what we're going to do, just wipe this off one more time. And what we're going to do is we're going to put some sort of a sentiment on the front. It doesn't really have to be anything major or anything fancy. It can be something kind of generic where it could go anything. So you could do thanks for reaching out, but I'm going to use have a wonderful adventure just because it's a little bit larger. And then we're going to actually stamp that on with Memento ink. So I'm going to take this, make sure that I have that straight since I don't have my sticker on. I know which direction, so I'm just going to press. I'm going to ink this up, make sure that it's nice and inked. You can even check it once on your paper first. So nice and inked. And then I'm just going to kind of put this right in the center. Looks nice. Slightly crooked, but that's okay. No big deal. That's what happens when you don't stamp with your stickers on, Rachel. All right, so what I'm going to do is one more thing, just to kind of give this a little bit of a tie-in. I'm going to actually go over this with some crumb cake ink on a sponge. Just to tie in just that little bit of crumb cake. It's not really a whole lot. And you can omit this step if you like, but I think it kind of gives it like a little finishing edge, takes away the harsh white edges. And then what we'll do is, to bring that in just a little bit more, I'm actually going to back this onto a small piece of crumb cake. So let me grab that. the only one I didn't have out and planned for. So I just have a scrap piece of crumb cake there. And we'll trim this to 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. And then it'll lay on there really nicely. And then all we have to do is put this together. So there's our piece for that. I'll put this scrap on the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stick with my multi-purpose adhesive since I have it out. So we're going to put that here. Layer that right on. The other thing you could do with this, just since it's very textury looking, is you could even bend up the paper a little bit just to kind of get that textured edge to it. So that would be something else you could do if you wanted to add a little bit more of a dimension to it. And I'm going to grab, just since I have this one out, this is the Everyday Label Punch. So I'm going to grab that and use this for here. Now, normally you aren't supposed to punch through 2 pieces of paper. So this is something, if you don't want to do that, that's 100% up to you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of slide this in, and I'm just eyeballing where I have it. So it's pretty much centered into the center of the punch, if that makes sense there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it back. So I'm up to this little lip right here. So just while I check that, I'm going to give it just a little squeeze to kind of hold it in place. Make sure that I have it centered. And squeeze. Alright, so there's your little part where you can put your gift card in. So I did put a little bit of glue on here, but we didn't put any in the center. So this should slide in here just nicely. As long as well, this one might... I was going to say, let me see. Should be big enough because I checked all these punches to make sure that they were large enough, but my little flap here is making it stick. So, yeah, this is just a smidge too small. So what I'm going to do is, instead of doing it over again, I'm just going to grab my paper snips here, and I'm going to give this a little snip instead of wasting this since it's perfectly good. And I'm going to cut just that teeny piece off. That should be enough. I mean, it's really only, gosh, that's probably like a 1/16 piece there. Okay, so let's see if that makes it a little bit better. Stick my finger in just to open it up. There we go, and that fits perfectly. So you could just give that a little nip if you needed to. Also, you have another cool piece that you could use if you wanted to add a little bit of a decoration to your, maybe like a word window or something that you wanted to put on there, back it with something. So that's another little cool piece. So you could save that. All right, so now we're going to just put our card together, and this is fairly simple, but again, I will definitely advise you to use the Tombow liquid glue because this gives you the ability to be able to slide this piece around, which you're going to kind of need, okay? I'm going to put all my layers on the side over here. This is my card base, all right? So what I generally do is I kind of fold it up, see where I think I want to put it, just like that. And then what I've done is you want to make sure that it is away from the edge just a teeny bit, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put some liquid glue onto the top. All right, I'm going to hold that in place, and I'm going to close my top flap over. Okay, so just give that a press. It's going to stay. And you want it, what you're trying to make sure is that your whole, let me just slide this out for a second, that your gift card holder will stay closed, which mine is just overlapped just slightly. I must have cut this paper just a little bit wrong. But you want to make sure that this is going to open and close without too much of a problem. So if you were to stick it like this, will it close? You're going to need to move this over just a smidge, okay? So we're going to bring this. Do have that to be able to move over just a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and close this just like that, and we'll see. Make sure that it actually opens, closes, this part closes, opens, and again this part closes. Okay, so we're pretty good there. So it has just a slight, it will stand up on its own, it will open and close. So you just want to make sure that everything opens before you go and put your other panels down, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cover this up. So I'm going to use this one on the inside panel. So again, just put a little bit of liquid glue on that. And this is cut 1/4 inch smaller, so it should lay on there really nicely. Make sure that's straight. All right, there's that. We're gonna put this panel on here. Just go ahead and put a little glue on that. Okay, put that one on here. That way it'll give you somewhere to write your message. Okay, make sure this all still at the same time. You do want to make sure it closes. So when you give it a press, just move it around to make sure it closes. There we go. Open nicely, and then just give it a good press with your fingers to make sure it stays. And now all we have to do is put on our front panel, which we were going to use the dark panel for. And make sure I do this correctly. Yesterday I did it wrong. I put the wrong side down. Okay. Go ahead and flip this over. Put this on the front. And the way I did cut my panel, this is a little bit off because I intended it to be this way, which it certainly still could be, but your greeting is going to be a little sideways. So if you want to cut this, you could cut it down a little bit, but I'm going to just have mine open this way instead, even though this is a little lopsided. So be mindful of that when you cut this. If you're going to cut one this way, I would say to do a piece that's probably about, let's say we could do the opposite and just have your greeting going the other way. Or you could do one that would be maybe 3 1/4 by, instead of having it quite so large, you could do like 3 1/4 by 3 1/2. So it'll be a more panel that would fit this direction instead, because again, this just takes up a little too much of the card for me. So I'm going to put this on the other way, which again is no big deal. So what you could do if you wanted to is you could just have your card so it's facing the other direction, just like that. So don't mind the phone, it'll stop in a second. So this one is going to open this way, and then you could stamp all of your images so they were the opposite direction on there. So there you go. Lovely card. It will still stand up. I just have to make sure this is folded a little bit more. And I think I had just a hair of an overhang here, so this wasn't exactly even. So I'm going to just trim this off. Just a little smidge. Yeah, that's just like a little bit too. So this trim should make it, well, if my cutter wanted to cut the way it was supposed to, it should make it so it's a little bit more of a precise opening. I'm just going to go back and retrim this with my scissors real quick. There we go. Okay, so now this should be a little piece hanging here, more even, so it will stand correctly. Plus this is a little bit slippery of a pad that it's hanging on, so it will stand sideways. The weight of it, let's see if we can get it to go, if we put this paper underneath of it, because yeah, so this is very slippery mat, so it will stand if it's on just a flat piece of paper, not something that's going to be moving. But again, this was really, really simple to make. I do have all the directions on my other blog post. That's at rachthestamper.com. I'm just going to I'm going to tag this card into that so you guys can see. Slide this in here. So this punch, just be advised, because it has a lot of really pretty cuts in it, doesn't make it quite so easy to get the gift card slid in. So you're going to have to kind of open it just a little bit. So if this is something that would be frustrating to you, you might want to use either the pretty label punch would be a good idea, or you could use the tailored tag punch, but either of those. This one looks really nice. It's just because of all these little angles here, it's a little bit more difficult to get in. But thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day. And if you have any questions, I love to hear from you guys. All you have to do is send me an email at rachthestamper.com, or you could leave me a comment either on YouTube, or you could leave it onto the blog post, rachthestamper.com. Thanks for watching.